Hey, welcome to The Link. The Link is a podcast created to build community through conversation. We focus on the stories of creatives, business owners, community leaders, and all-around interesting people from the community of Lincoln, Nebraska. We welcome you to come learn about your neighbors as we have a conversation with them. All right, well, welcome, guys. This is The Link Podcast, sponsored by Carlson Projects. My name is Andy Morrison.
And I'm Stephen Carlson.
Today we have on the show Clinton Collins, the owner of Home and Closet and co-owner of Platte Interiors. And he's a really passionate, curious guy. And today we talk about like what Home and Closet is, what it's becoming, and just kind of like every avenue that like he has gone down to make Home and Closet what it is. And it's, I think, a really interesting story. And we touch on some pretty interesting things that I didn't know about the city of Lincoln.
City of Lincoln and just business in general. I feel like he has a unique perspective from becoming a lawyer and working at a cabinet shop at night to living in San Diego in South America to opening a furniture store in Lincoln, Nebraska. So if you want to hear the story, keep listening.
The Link.
The Link.
The Link.
The Link.
Podcast.
Cool. Well, welcome to the Link Podcast. I'm Stephen Carlson.
I'm Andy Morrison.
And
I'm Clinton Collins.
yeah, so we are here with Clint Collins today to talk about all things Home and Closet, Lincoln business, Ashland business, being online, all sorts of things. So kind of give me a background, like a history of how did you get to Lincoln? Did you grow up in Lincoln? Give me kind of a background of like how you got here and what you're doing.
So I was born in Columbus, Nebraska, and my parents moved here, I think, when I was 2. And both of them are from that area, from Columbus. My mom's a Czech from, they call it the Bohemian Alps, but
Yep.
right in that area, Howells and all, David City and all that. So I grew up here. I went to elementary school and junior high and high school here. And this has been my home base. I did travel and move away for about a decade, but I came back here, and I love it. It's a good place. I enjoy living in Nebraska. I didn't always, and I sort of came back and I really appreciated it even more.
Where'd you go for 10 years?
I went to school in Australia for a couple years, and then I went to law school in San Diego, and then I was in South America for a bit, and that's most all of it. Yeah.
And you're just like, man, I should go back to Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good home base. It really,
sure.
It is for a lot of reasons. I mean, I think it's an excellent place. And yeah, it's where I grew up. It's what I'm familiar with. I mean, I do have friends in a lot of places, but some of my best friends were here. My family's obviously here, and my son's here, which was is the primary thing in my life. But
yeah,
it's a really good town. I like Lincoln. I like Nebraska.
So where like the transition go? Because you obviously went to law school. And then did you come back and have like a law job in Lincoln? Or
did.
Like how did it like transition from lawyer to opening a vintage store?
Yes, I get that question a lot. It's quite frequent. And I was kind of like, in my family we do a lot of things, whether it's like renovation but there's a lot of like, there's a real a vein of craftsmen in my family. And so it was weird, I went to law school and I was interested in that, but then like, it wasn't really what I loved. I worked in immigration law for years. And then I did some criminal defense work and some other stuff when I came back, and I really enjoyed I don't know what it is. Like even as a child, I wanted to be an architect, but like, so design has always had an important part of my life. Like growing up, like I was interested in other things, but design's kind of always been there. And definitely if you asked me when I was like 12 what I wanted to be, I would have said architect. I never would have said lawyer. So, and then I just moved back here, and I guess kind of what the genesis for Home and Closet was, I actually started out online. I had no physical presence, and I was doing like a lot of vintage clothes. And this is about like 10 years ago. And that was really, and that was going really well, and I was selling a ton of stuff. And I got to the point where I couldn't have my friends helping me anymore because I didn't want because I was running out of friends to help, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
And so then you
I've been
sort
there.
of scale up. Yeah. And so it's like, I'm out of friends. Now I got to pay people, and I don't want strange people off of Craigslist at my house. You know what I mean? Like, so I was driving down 33rd Street, right on 33rd and B, and there was a storefront, and my brother was a bike mechanic for years across the street at a shop that was called Bike Peddlers. It was there forever. And I saw that storefront, and it was like the right size, and so I was like, let's do this, you know. And so I rented the space, and we were there for 5 years, and that was cool because we could expand. Yeah. Because it was like a strip mall, and as the businesses next to me would like move or go out of business, I would grab their space, and we went from like, I think originally it was under 800 square foot to we were up to like 2,600 square feet at the end.
Yeah, I didn't realize that how big that spot was.
It was big, and it was a great layout. It was an older building. It needed some work. And then eventually when we moved to Prescott, where we've been the last 2 years, that was just an upgrade from that as well.
When you first moved into that spot on 33rd, was it like, yes, I'm doing retail, or were you like, I just need a spot to have my stuff?
You know, that's interesting. So when I set it up at first, I set it up so that I really didn't believe in brick and mortar at first. I was kind of adverse to it, but like I said, I needed to get the physical like business out of my house. Mm-hmm. And so at first I set it up so that it didn't matter if we divvied the space in half. And so you're probably talking like 500 square foot of actual showroom space. Yeah. And I was like, it doesn't matter if we sell anything in the store. Online is the engine that pays the rent and pays everyone and pays taxes and all of that. But then like, I soon realized that Lincoln, and I had lived around a lot of places, so I realized that like Lincoln needed this, that like this was something that Lincoln didn't have, and they needed it. And this is kind of like really, Instagram was just starting about 10, you know what I mean? It's like 10 years ago. This is about 7 years ago actually, but at this point, but you know, in all of that was starting, and there just wasn't any retail that Lincoln didn't have. That like in San Diego there were really cool stores with like neat stuff, and like everything here was like Target and
like super unique stuff that you couldn't buy at a big box store.
Yeah, things with like a cool vintage chair, a cool vintage sofa. And so because we were doing a lot of vintage clothing, we'd run into a lot of that stuff. And so I realized like, oh, this is a good get for Lincoln as well. And I think it definitely took root, you know. It definitely grew. But there wasn't any big design necessarily. I mean, we use Instagram a lot. I wasn't even going to have an Instagram. I remember I was like, I don't think we really need that. Do we really need that? It's kind of, but then like that's a huge thing for us now. So.
What was the point where you were like, where it grew past like your original ambition? Was there like a point where you were like, I'm just gonna sell random stuff and just have fun with it, and then it was like all of a sudden, oh, like I have a 2,000 square foot store? Or was it like calculated, planned out, like, hey, I'm gonna step up to this and this is gonna change to this? Like,
I'm very like, so I approached it in a very calculated fashion, I would say. I mean, I definitely had a thing that was going on with because clothing's very shippable. It's easy. You just throw an envelope and send it and ship. We'd ship stuff to Ireland. I mean, we were selling, I think one year we did like, we shipped like, it was crazy. We shipped on average 30 items a day, every day, literally every day, 30 items. for like a whole year. So whatever 30 times 365 is, I forget whatever that number is. It's like how many thousands of items.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were on the U.S. Postal Service, the big route. So like we went down to the post office and got on where the big van would pick up because the mail guy hated me. And like he did, man. He would grimace every time he saw me. And so we got on the big where the guy would come with the van, and we got special USPS, like the carts, the big, like they look like laundromat carts, but they're huge. And we had 2 of those even, and we'd fill them up. I mean, it was insane. But then, you know, the interesting thing happened is that as the storefront took, it just sort of happened organically. I wouldn't say I tried to push it or anything like that, but we started to see the value there and get connected locally. And like I said, like Facebook was, I think, much more of a player for us back then. And that was really getting us our branding out, and it was free. There was no algorithm at the time. Like, I mean, you remember that? It was like first in time type thing. Like that seems like ancient history.
Man, those were the days.
You strategically time it so it's like when everybody gets off work that you like in front of somebody, and
now it's all algorithmic. I mean, any exposure you get as far as customers. And so that was kind of neat to see it genuinely, like sort of people get excited about things. And then it just sort of turned, you know, and then it was like, well, this is more fun. This is more interesting. It's definitely going to pay the rent. So let's do this. And this is and it kind of was like my original vision anyway. Like it was kind of like, I'm much more interested in this to begin with, and we can still do the other thing, but let's grow this aspect of it. And then that took over. I mean, essentially, like, I mean, we still did clothing even until now. We're moving out of Prescott, but we still did clothing up. I mean, even now a tiny bit, you know, and I definitely do vintage leather bags and stuff like that.
And where did like the upholstery come from? Was that like something that you did in a past life, or like you just kind of started to teach yourself, or like where did that come from? Because I feel like that is honestly one of the most unique things about it, because not very many people do upholstery, for one, and for two, hardly anybody does it that actually has some sort of style. I feel like there's a lot of people that would maybe want to recover a chair or something, but they would want to do it in old, terrible
kind of grandma fabric is what grandpa fabric. But I mean, so with that, so when I even when I was in college, I was working in a lot of cabinet shops. Like I said, I was kind of weird. I like had a job at a law firm and then also a job at a cabinet shop. And so for me, you know, we were doing the furniture and stuff, and we would do repair stuff. But then like I realized like there's no one doing upholstery, like nobody. Like there's like 3 people maybe in the state or something that are doing it on any sort of like, you know,
commercial level.
In the state?
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably more than that, but it's very few. It's not. It's way less than you would think.
I only know of maybe one other place.
There's Pecos in town. They do a great job. They're the old. That's the you know, they're the blue. You know, they've been doing it forever.
Yeah. The only other person I know who does upholstery is my neighbor, but it's just like out of his garage. Like, if you bring a chair over, he might be able to fix it. And that's all I ever knew.
And he probably doesn't like advertise that he does it.
No.
Yeah.
So with that, I got a bunch of scrap Pendleton wool I bought from a guy, and I was like, I could use this. So it all kind of meshed, because I kind of got known for that Pendleton thing, which I'll put any material on the chair. That's not a big deal. But so it just kind of grew out of that. Like it was like there was all these great pieces, and like, you know, you fix a couple and you start doing upholstery, and it's like a very difficult art. It's like not something that's easy. So like upholstery is like, it's like if you're a lawyer and you do a divorce case, right? There's like 1,000 different types of divorce cases. There's like, maybe they have children, maybe they don't, maybe they've been married for 50 years, maybe they've been married for a month. You know what I mean? Chairs are the same way. So like every
chairs are like divorces. I found the title for the podcast. Chairs are like divorces.
That is a good one. But so, you know, each chair is different. So I get people and they want like bids on stuff, and it's like they don't understand how much different a chair is. Like sometimes you're doing buttons, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're doing double welt, sometimes you're just, you know, not doing any welt at all. Sometimes you can't save them, sometimes you can. Different kinds of springs. So it's like anything else. If you break it down into its elements and learn all of the elements, then you can put it together and become a professional at it, basically. I keep hitting this microphone. Unintentionally, but
Just roll with it.
all right.
Should we move it up, or you think it's fine?
It's
All right.
is it loud
Sounds
when I
good.
hit that thing?
A little bit, but I can take it down.
Okay. So
problem.
sorry.
You're good.
So I was fascinated with it. I always was. And upholstery to me always was kind of like some kind of secret science. Like I was like, how do you even get
I
started?
absolutely agree.
It's like
Yeah.
sorcery or something.
Mhm.
It's like, I mean, even like, there's a lot of people who deal with like woodworkers and, guys who work with stone, and it's just a totally different deal.
Yep.
And it's just its own thing. And I think that there's a lot of art to it too, because there's like tension and how the fabric moves, and you have to anticipate all these things.
Yep.
So I fell in love with that, like that aspect of it.
So what I'm kind of like catching is like you enjoy a challenge,
Oh, well, yeah, certainly, yes.
because
I mean,
I feel like anybody that is like, I just want to put this together and walk away from it would not do upholstery, because you have to think like 9 steps ahead of like how this is going to look ultimately once I put this around this or fold this over that. Or
oh yeah, I mean, especially yes, when you're setting the piece up, and even how the frame is, and like, yeah, it's a neat, paint, like guys who paint like at a real high level, it's the same kind of thing, like prepping that kind of thing. They have to prep, whatever they're painting, and there's a lot that goes into the prep that makes, and the paint's just the end thing. Upholstery is a little different, but there is that like layered procedure.
Yep.
Where you have to like set it up and spring tension and all of that. And if you don't do the things in the beginning, then you put that final piece on, and it's like, oh, this doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
And that's going to be very apparent to everyone.
How many pieces were like, no, tear it back apart? Like, how many times have you had to tear something back apart?
I mean,
when
less
you,
so
when you first
now.
when you first started, you were
Yeah, when I first started, it's kind of rough. It's also kind of rough. I mean, it's definitely a lot of work. It's a lot of physical labor as well. You got to rip the pieces down. It's a lot of pulling, staples and tacks.
Well, I just pulled the stupid little nails out of that
That rocker.
that you're doing for us, and I was just like, they just go everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, when they're shooting them on, they're not really like,
And
thinking about
man,
anyone pulling them.
all of a sudden I was like walking up the stairs, and I was like, what is in my shoe? And I turned over my shoe, and I had 2 of those stuck in my shoe.
Yeah, but I mean, I enjoy it. It's fun and it's interesting. It is endlessly challenging. I could do it the rest of my life and still be learning.
For sure.
I mean, there's just so many. It's not something that can be replicated either. Like, for example, like, it's not like you're always going to need that. If you want to reupholster a chair, a machine's never going to be able to do that. Like, they might be able to produce the chair initially, but not go in and like rebuild a chair.
Yep.
I mean, that's just a totally.
That's what I say about remodeling.
Tactile
That's what I
thing.
say about remodeling all the time. It's like, everybody's
Yes.
like, aren't you worried about like robots stealing your job? I'm like, until they can solve problems,
Yes.
like, okay, this wall is going to do this when I open it up, or this plumbing pipe is going through here. Like, I don't have really anything to worry about.
No, they would have to really be human. I mean,
Yes.
like that's a fascinating thing too, with automation. But yeah, it's an art form, And Jocelyn just had an exhibit. I don't know if it's still up, but it was on the art of the chair, and it was like so they had all these this huge collection, private collection, of all these like sort of iconic chairs. It's starting from like, and it was American stuff, so it was started in like 1700s, but then it like went through the years of like all these different styles of chairs that like they had produced. It was kind of neat actually. It was a big, huge exhibit. You had to like pay extra to get in and everything.
Huh?
It was
I didn't know that.
Wow.
I should have
Yeah.
gone to that.
They might still have it up. They had it running for a while, but I don't know if they do. But it was
Sounds
it was
really
neat to
interesting.
see. Yeah, I have photos if you want to see later. But
Yeah.
it was just fascinating because they were objects of art. How they design them. Chairs are actually the most difficult piece of furniture to design because they have to carry all the body of your weight, and they're usually very slender. And like they do all these like functions. You move them around a lot, and so they're really difficult to make.
Very, like, a little bit more engineering than you think would go into them.
Oh, chairs, weight distribution, all of that. Yeah, it's a huge deal.
So, started doing upholstery kind of like as a necessity,
Yes.
and then it kind of changed into like a passion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like at what point were you like, yes, this is like something that I could do for the rest of my life?
I mean, I grew into it, but I took a class as well, and like one class, and then I just got really into it, and then there's like a sewing machine, and you get your really, I mean, I don't know how cool a sewing machine is, but like I'm like, that's the coolest sewing machine, you know, and like but it's like you can do all these things, and then you get into like working with leather and upholstering and leather, and that's pretty neat stuff and high-end stuff. So you get into some really cool, like you get into some neat stuff. So it just meshed real well with what I was doing, like what was happening in my life and the pieces that I was seeing. And then it was like added that value to my business. And then I started teaching classes. So now I've taught classes for 3 years almost.
Yeah.
And I bet I've taught 300, 400 people.
That's amazing. That's like super cool to me. Like we always talk about like training the next generation of craftsmen, and just like the impact that just those 300 people will have like on the industry of just just upholstery is just really, really cool.
We had Duncan come and visit, and they were looking for upholsterers.
Interesting.
Yeah, so Duncan came and visited. I got a bunch of free pens and stuff.
Sweet.
But,
Nice,
I know,
free
right?
pens.
They're really nice people. Well, and there was an interesting tie-in because because of upholstery, I do bags as well. So then I actually was making a pillowcase, or I was making a pillow sham, and I was like, that would be a really cool bag. And then I just started making bags. But then I got like all into the leather working thing, which is its own like
beast
world. Yes, yeah. I mean, that's like a separate, endless world. It's like there's upholstery, which is endless, and then there's leather working, which is endless. So I kind of meshed the two. And but I had got down at the Eco Store, which isn't open anymore.
I know, it's super sad.
I know, that was a good one.
It was a crazy place.
There was cool stuff in there. But they had a bunch of old seats that Duncan had donated, and I bought all of it. This leather, this jet leather. It was because they like go in and rip the interior out of their jets, and then redo it. And the guys get crazy. It's like ostrich or like exotic stuff. I don't know, gnarly stuff. But this was just regular leather. But they had a bunch of leather, and then I made a bunch of bags out of them. And actually, a lot of the people associated with Duncan came in and bought the bags that I made.
That's
so it was
cool.
kind of fun.
Yeah,
it was kind of neat.
Like tying it back into.
And Duncan's, such an iconic, Nebraska brand as well, obviously. So.
What do you think? So you're at 33rd and B Street. You're there for how many years?
5 years.
5 years? Man, that's crazy. I thought it was like 2. That's wild. So
that was
you're
a
there for
beautiful storefront, though. By the way, just how open it really felt.
It was good for photography. I mean, man, it was. We had a lot of light because we had that big, huge westerly facing wall. It was all glass.
Yeah.
It was weird because usually stores are laid out narrow and long, and it's dark in the back, almost exclusively.
Yeah.
But that one was like
Just
pitched
so
the other way,
bright.
so it was going down the side of it, which was unique to that space.
I still drive by it. I'm like, man, that's a beautiful building. Like,
It was a cool.
just
building.
a lot of glass.
So much
facing
glass.
the proper way.
yeah. It's a good.
And that's kind of what like a lot of times what I think about like now that I've started doing more and more like remodeling stuff. I'm like, I always have to work with the canvas I'm given, but I'm like, man, if I were to build a house, like I would want to position it just perfectly so that it gets the most light it can possibly get. But so there for 5 years, and then like how'd the transition to College View happen? Was it just like
So we were there for 5 years, and it was, I love that neighborhood, but it never really, like, we didn't have any. We had Sips and Subs is there, a great restaurant, little spot right there on the corner, but we didn't have like anything big move in. And so and then the owners of the new building approached me, and they said, we've got this building, and I was like, okay, great, let's do it. And so then we moved to Prescott, which is like super cool. I mean, Prescott's a really good little hood. I mean, what a great little street, and what a great little small business street. So we were like, of course, yes. And when they showed it to me, it was like super run down, and like literally there was stuff dripping from the ceiling, and there were holes in the floor.
Yep.
And I was like, but I saw the vision. I saw what they saw, and it renovated it, and it's gorgeous. It's still gorgeous. We were there. We've been there 2 years, so we did 2 years, and then we're moving now. But that's a great spot too. And they just approached us. It's great, Goldenrod, Paper Kite, the mill's there. There's a ton of businesses. I mean, I can't even think of them all. Patino, Select Style, small Lincoln businesses. And I think it's the best small business hub in the city. I mean, downtown's nice. I mean, the Haymarket, but that hub right there, I mean, that's
well, there
pretty
isn't
good.
one. There isn't one like I guess what would you call it? There isn't one chain store in there. Like there isn't one.
No, and it's blocks of small business.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, it's not just Prescott, right? It's like that. I
Whole,
forget
like, quarter
Cooper
mile
or whatever. There's that Cooper Street. What were you
Yep.
saying?
Just that whole quarter mile is just like small business
Between
It
like
is,
Pioneers
yeah.
and Prescott, it's just like
I never actually counted. I always wanted to count though, because I bet there's like 50. Because if you go down, you know, on 48th Street North, there's for 2 or 3 more blocks. It's just all small businesses.
yep.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where you have a you know, group as large as that of small businesses else in the city. I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, I mean you got Havelock a little bit,
But
but
not as vibrant.
but
That
no,
was-
it's not near as vibrant.
Yeah.
and not near as much like, especially once it seemed like once the farmers market even came too,
And then the farmers market came 2 months after we did, and we were like, yes,
and it was just like
yes, it was nuts.
because we've been
Amazing,
here,
yeah.
we've been at this house for 4 years, 5 years, something like that, and it was like Conroy's was good. We'd go and
Yeah.
get donuts there.
Uh-huh.
And we just loved walking there. Then it's like Goldenrod opened,
Yes.
and it's like now
Oh.
it just turned into like, yep, we're gonna walk our dog down there and just like go hang out, and then we go
Yes.
to the farmers market
Yes.
and walk around. You know, it's just like explore, basically.
And I think a few of the right people moved in at the right time. I think it's just like one of those things where it just sort of like, that's really it. You know, you had a lot of the businesses that were like similar but different. You know,
Similar like intention. I felt like
yeah, similar vibe. I would say vibe, but not even similar vibe. Like similar, like I don't know how they're similar, but like they're similarly interesting. There you go. That's a good way to put it.
yeah, I would agree with that. So what's kind of your thoughts on? So you're making a transition out of kind of like a storefront. Like, what's kind of your thoughts on Lincoln as a business area, and like where do you see kind of Lincoln businesses kind of growing or morphing or changing or?
I mean, that obviously depends on like what you're defining as business. I mean, there's counseling centers or something, you know, or like chiropractic places.
Yep.
I think if you're talking retail, I mean, that's a whole separate discussion, but which I would love to have if you want to talk about it.
Let's talk about retail.
Well, I'll start with the business. Before I get into that, I'll talk
He's
to
warning
about
you, it's
general.
very,
cool.
very deep.
Yep.
There's a lot to it.
We're dipping our toe in right now, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna dive deep later.
But I would say as far as Lincoln business, I mean, Lincoln is a good place to have a business. There's a university here. There's, you know, obviously with the state capitol, that helps too a little bit, you know. And there's a lot of people here who want to support small businesses. I think we need to continue to grow awareness of how important that support is. Because I think people, and I do it too, everyone does it. I mean, no one's really exempt from it. Like, but we all sort of are like, yes, we want small business to win, but then we still go to,
Yeah.
like if there's 2 gas stations, one's locally owned and one's just, you know, a national chain, we go to the national chain one. I don't know why.
Yep.
And so you have to make that choice to go to the smaller one. And so I think we have to continue to raise awareness about that. But that being said, Lincoln's a great town. I think a lot of the issues with Lincoln I know of is the parking restrictions that the city enforces on businesses, and those really affect businesses hard, because if you want to buy an old building or rent an old building and put a cafe in there, you better have, and they just recently kind of eased that up, but that's been a huge issue, especially because Lincoln geographically is so, like, there's not really the small business districts that you have in Omaha. Like they have like Benson,
Yeah.
like, I mean, they have like big, like Elkhorn,
Dundee.
Dundee, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I mean, there's like 10 of them really. And Lincoln didn't grow that way. I mean, there's a couple of little towns that we ate up, basically, like Havelock
Yep.
or
Dude,
Union
Havelock
Hall.
could be so cool.
It could be. I mean, and that there might be some other issues with Havelock too. But I know that, like, with, as far as my understanding is that is that the parking issue is definitely a thing. I know that I ran into that issue a couple
Well,
times.
I think Lincoln, if there is any, so I feel like it's kind of like a two-sided sword. Like it's great because it doesn't seem like they planned very well for growth. Like it seems like it just
it takes
like
a year to get through.
all.
Lincoln.
It seems like all of a sudden
48th Street is like 25. the
it
whole
seems
way.
like all of a sudden it just like overtook everything, and now it just feels like a giant small town. So that's like a bad thing, but it's also a great thing because it's like you feel, even if you drive, like you said, straight through on 48th Street. Now I'm hitting things. Even if you drive straight through on 48th Street, like you still feel like you're in town the whole time. Like you still feel like you're in a neighborhood the whole
there's
time.
a continuity to it for sure. With the parking, I was more referring to if you start a new business, they require you to have so much parking.
So many parking spaces.
And if you're in an older part of town, which are the cool part of towns, according to me.
Yes, doesn't exist.
It doesn't. Yeah, there's no parking because when they built those places, there weren't any cars. I mean, because those buildings are all 100 years old. I mean, maybe there were a couple cars, but they didn't have like massive parking
Yeah,
requirements.
they had Model Ts, not
that's right.
1950s.
You just pulled your horse up to the whatever you call it and tie her up.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
walk
You
around.
just need it. It's, But so they have a lot of like kind of stringent parking requirements, and so if you try to move a small business, especially restaurants and stuff, because a tapas joint in Prescott would just be amazing. I mean,
It'd
think
be
about
amazing.
like a little tapas joint with wine and stuff. That place would crush it. But you can't get anything in there because there's no parking. It's like a huge issue. So they have to like downtown. You can open up a restaurant or a store, and you don't have to conform to parking requirements, I believe, because it's a zoned area, and downtown is the only place that really benefits from that. There might be one or two others, but maybe that has to do with metered parking or something. But like that was the cool thing about downtown is you don't have to meet the parking requirements because it's all considered like
part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So with Prescott and stuff, it's tough to do some things because of city parking requirements for the business owners.
I didn't realize that. But you think? I wonder if they put meters there, if they would like open it up.
I always thought they should put, if they could do that. Like I always thought that's what they should. I thought the solution was create these designated business districts within Lincoln that allow people to have more flexibility. Because with the parking, you end up requiring people to have these vast sums of money tied up in these businesses, which maybe a smaller entrepreneur isn't going to take that kind of financial risk. I mean, you have to like get the building and a parking lot, secure, on-site parking within so many feet of your business.
Yep.
That's like a little too expensive for most people, I think.
Yep. And it's also like, man, I just figured out how I'm gonna make my business work. Now I got to figure out how to make this parking lot work too.
So it seems odd that they don't come up with some sort of like workaround or exemption. That's all like city stuff because that's all regulated on the city level. But I'm not, I don't know what there's probably some other reasons they say that, but I mean, that's just what I've seen in my own way. As far as Lincoln, that's one thing that makes it difficult. But there's like obviously a lot of ways probably to get around that, like go downtown or whatever. If you're a business owner.
Yeah. So that's the business side of it. What's the retail side of it? What are you kind of seeing for retail businesses as far as like growth and like, I guess, how to survive or how to thrive, or like what's your thoughts on it?
Your take on the future and what it.
So
what do you think?
I think about this a lot. But so I think so there's big retail and there's small retail, and I think that if you're talking about small retail, which is my primary concern, it's really tough. It's always been tough, but now you face additional obstacles. Obviously online is a part of that. It's just easier. I think as the consumers look at it like, why would I go into your store when I can go on the internet and buy anything? Right? I think the only advantage you have really is like they can see it in person, which that's still valid.
See it and measure it.
They can expedite the driving on 48th Street for 25 miles an hour.
Yes.
They don't have to do that.
But I mean, so that's the thing. So if you're a small business, I think, and I think this is kind of like what a lot of people say is it's you have to provide an experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like you sell your goods or your products or your services or whatever, but then you provide an experience that they're not going to get online, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something where you can be online, because like, you know, and that's like whatever, like you have a unique look or a unique environment, and that's what I try to create with you know, Home and Closet, was this like really unique sort of like, people would walk in and I would get like, man, this place is like somewhere out of it's like they would always think like California or East Coast or something. I mean, they would always be really blown away, even people from out of town.
Mm-hmm. Did you purposely kind of do that?
I mean, it's kind of, Home and Closet's really just like,
or was it just like an outflow of just who you are?
it kind of was an outflow of who, you know, I had a friend and she said to me once, she was like, it's just like your brain. Like, it's just like, so like the interior of home. I mean, it's just all stuff that I like. And I just spent a lot of years, you know, when we were kids, my mom read like design magazines.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have like all of them, you know, like Elle Decor, whatever, all those. And so we grew up kind of on these design magazines and these vignettes that I then produced, you know? So I don't know if it was subconsciously coming back to me or whatever.
Yeah, it was just flowing out of you.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like what I like. I mean, a lot of Home and Closet stuff is just stuff that I like, or stuff that I, you know, I kind of put together an aesthetic there that I guess was, you know, how I felt things should look.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Were there any? I'm sure there are, but I think about like, I've bought and sold stuff forever. That's just kind of who I am. But I think of like, there's like certain pieces or things that I've bought. I'm like, I really hope that somebody like doesn't buy this, but then they end up buying it. Is there any like pieces that you like automatically think in your head, you're like, dang it, I wish I wouldn't have sold that?
You know, actually, so I think that one thing that helped me is I'm like not attached to stuff. I'm pretty lucky about that.
Okay.
So like, I don't really like, I mean, it all sort of comes and goes, and like, I never really developed any. The only thing actually I ever get like into really is like art. Like I do have like I've got Stuart Gare. He's a ceramic artist. Did his MFA at UNL, and he was at Harvard for a bit, and I think he's doing something in Montana, or I don't know where he's at right now. Very talented guy. And so I have a couple pieces by him, and I sort of hold on to those. Or like my friend Sean is an artist, and I have a painting by him. So like, it's weird because the pieces that I hold on to are really just the art. I mean, I would say that I've come into contact with the artist through owning the store.
Do you think it's like, do you think it's the actual art? I'm sure it's the actual art, but do you think it's like that connection that reminds you, or like it kind of like grounds that piece to you?
I mean, I think or Hannah Dema here in town. She's a wonderful artist. She's doing her MFA now at UNL, University of Nebraska too. And like, it's all of the things, and that's why it connects to me. It's because it's like, I appreciate the aesthetic value of the piece. Like, it's really well done, or like the proportions are good or whatever. But then also I know the artist as well. So it's kind of on two different levels, you know, like they're a friend of mine. So it's neat to have a piece that they did that I also think is really, you know, well done.
Yeah, that's always interesting, because I like, if I spend time with something, I get attached to it, but I can always sell it. But then I look back and I'm like, dang it.
I've had some cool stuff that I'm like, yeah, it depends, you know. I definitely have had some neat stuff or some one-off stuff that you're like, man, that was cool, and then you just never see it again ever. Yep. Especially with older, you know, vintage stuff.
Yeah, like these bucket chairs.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I've seen so many chairs and dressers and like.
Yeah. So
it's all sort of like turned into like, and I like seeing in other people's homes. We get pictures of stuff that people post in their homes a lot, and that's really cool, because like they'll have great interior, and then they'll purchase some chairs from us, and they'll like send us a photo or post a photo on Instagram and tag us or whatever, and it's just neat to see that thing living in their environment. You know, I kind of dig that as well.
What do you think, like looking back at like just the flow of how things have grown and changed and whatever, what do you think, what surprised you the most, and then what, like, looking back, do you think was the kind of the guiding truths to what made it what it was?
About the success of the brick and mortar home and closet.
Just in general,
or being in business.
yeah, just being in business.
Okay, wait. What was the first part of that question?
Oh man, I gotta remember.
It was like what surprised me.
Yeah, like what surprised you the most about like when you started it, when like got into it, and now you're looking back and you're like, man, I really did not think it would go this way. And then like what was kind of like guiding principles of what you.
Oh right.
Now
like,
you look back and you're like, this is why it worked.
Well, the guiding principles are way more boring, so I'll start with that. But like, well, I meant like so that save the good stuff for later.
Yeah, for sure.
But like hard work, definitely. Like you just got to be the person that gets up early in the morning, and like that's how you like do it. Like anything, it doesn't matter what it is, you just got to like try. And like that's a thing too. Like try consistency as well, which I think was one of our strengths that I believe that helped us to get where we were and where we are. You know, every day you got to like wake up and do it every day, like rain or shine, whatever, you know, it's just, that's like working out or anything else.
If you didn't, even if you don't feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And like, but like, it's like that consistency, not only consistency of doing it, but doing it well. And like, that was always a real important thing for me, was like, let's do it, but let's do it well. And let's do it well every time. And let's do it when we're supposed to do it. And that, so that really helped, I think, you know, and those are just old school types of things, you know, that they say. What surprised me? Definitely social media, man. I was not like really super into that at first. And like, that has been really helpful. And I don't know how we do okay on it. We have like a lot of followers and stuff on Facebook and whatever, and the Instagram, but like, it's like, I never expected that to be like the thing it is. Never in a million years. That was really kind of interesting.
Yeah. Just kind of, did it just blow up organically, or did you like,
yeah, at the beginning it did.
Did you kind of like, you're like, okay, this, like, I think about like what we try and do is like, okay, this does really well and this sells really well, so how do we find more of that to kind of grow our audience? Or were you just kind of like, let's put it all out there and see what happens? Or was there like a strategic thought behind it?
I think it was more of like what I was doing, people were into, and like because of that worked. Like I definitely didn't like I mean, we definitely like were smart about it, but like at the same time, like we weren't like chasing the algorithm type thing, right? Like I didn't take a selfie on a cliff because everybody else took a selfie on the cliff and got like, you know, 5,000 likes or something. So it was more like I was just doing what I do, and that was getting like, you know, for whatever reason on social media, it was becoming like people were just into it, you know. And but I think that you know, and then this is fascinating. I think that what we try to do is tell a story, and I think that that's really what it's about, and I think that's what I still do. And because people are into stories, like you remember People from New York, or what's that,
Humans from New York?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Like that thing was like captivating, and it was like kind of I mean, I remember that was like, I don't know if it's still, I think it's still a thing.
I think so.
But like it was like the sort of shots of people, and they wouldn't include their heads in the frame, and it'd be like some, you know, long story about their lives. Like, I don't know, sometimes it was really good story, sometimes it was like some terrible thing that happened to them, you know? Or they were like terrible people, or
either way, just
like
like super interesting to like learn.
Yes. So because it was a story, so people were sort of captivated by these stories, right? Like, what's going to be the news story today? And so, and relating that to your own life, and I think that there's a lot of that. So like I think that that's what we did, is we would, you know, we would source these vintage pieces that like people could relate to, and they're like, I love that chair too, you know what I mean? And like, because it was a great chair, and so like that's sort of what happened, you know. And it was accessible, and it was easy, it was just very accessible to consumer, and that's what I still try to do. And as we continue to grow, that's always been like, it's both. It was both surprising, and it's one of the principles that I've always sort of believed in was like, you should always tell a good story, and you have to be good at telling a story. I think a lot of people try to tell stories and they're not as good about it, but they should like, and the way to get better at that is look at how other people tell stories, or like, you know, there's ways to get better at that, just like anything else.
Yeah. What do you, what are the next steps for Home and Closet? Like, how does Home and Closet grow? What does that look like? What does it look like for you? Like, how do you foresee the future going? Or are you just gonna kind of do it like before, where it's like, let's see how this organically kind of does its thing?
Like shapes again. That's, yeah.
And I think, and I will say this, like, I honestly think that's like the most fun part about small business, is that it doesn't have to stay the same.
You know, so recently we and you guys know this, but we were at Prescott for 2 years. Our lease is up, and so we're gonna go fully online. And so a couple of reasons we did that. I started online, like I said, and I think that I can more effectively reach my customer online, but I need to put my resources into that and sort of all hands on deck on that. I think that then you have limitless growth, to be honest, because I mean, you're not on the south side of town or north side of town or east side of town or west side of town. You're like everywhere. But like anything else, you have to be adept at it. So we're definitely going to do that. We're definitely going to continue to grow that. And, we do make some of our own products, like we make bags and things like that. I've designed a couple pieces of furniture. And so with that stuff, I ship those all over the country, hundreds of them I've shipped. So I make a bench, and, people have seemed to have enjoyed that bench. So, I mean, we'll continue to grow, and, it's all online. So instead of coming to the store, but a lot of our sales were online anyway, from the get-go. So sort of always we maintained, half of, not half, but it was weird. At first it was 90% online, and then it's flipped, and then it got almost to where it was 90% in the store, and then it kind of came back, and now we're just 100% online again. So and when I found out, when we moved, I was like, this is actually a good thing. Kind of reinvent, what you're doing. We always did kind of a brand rebrand every couple years. I think every 2 years. That's a good idea. Keep it fresh. Keep customers interested in.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that's the most interesting and the most fun part about having a small business, is it is a small business, and it is kind of a part of you, and it is kind of who you are, and you can kind of direct how that looks. It's not like Target, where Target has to put out the same exact product every single time to keep people expecting the same exact thing. Same thing with Starbucks. Starbucks has to keep putting out the same product,
same cup of coffee,
or else somebody's going to get mad.
Pumpkin spice latte.
But with a small business, we want to keep customers engaged. Yeah, we want to do that, but it's also, that's a lot of times what people find interesting or unique or fall in love with, is kind of the personality behind it. And I think that's what Brooke and I really fell in love with, was just the personality of the store and of the things that are behind it, because it's not we would go in there because we wouldn't know what was going to be in there next. There is an anticipation or a excitement around I wonder what Clint's going to come up with next, or
right.
I wonder what chair we could reupholster to make it cool, or and that's, so I don't know where I'm going with this, other than thank you for doing the stuff that you do, and thank you for supporting small business and kind of creating something that people want to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, and I try to practice what I preach. I mean, I've never bought anything on Amazon, and I can say that in my entire life, I've never purchased anything on Amazon.
It's amazing.
It's, to me, it's weird how many people haven't done that, but that's because I know I think it's a job killer. I really do. But I love small business. I love working with small businesses. You kind of have seen, we work a ton with small businesses, and I'm always down to, to do, anything small business related and promote that. I think that, so the employees I've had over the years, we've had quite a few employees, and I'm always teaching entrepreneurship to them. So a lot of them are students or whatever. And like, I'm like, okay, you guys, this is how you do it. And I really like sort of pull back the curtains for them to see, like, this is the whole operation, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like you're just like shipping things or something, right? I'm like, these are the decisions I'm making, and this is why I'm going to make this decision. And what do you think about that decision?
Yep.
And, you know, and I've been, you know, lucky to have worked with some really, you know, great people who had great ideas and great, you know, concepts that we implemented in the brand. And so that's been really cool too. But I love the interaction as well.
Yep.
I haven't really put myself at the front of it though. Like, I was always kind of like a little camera shy.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know who I am. They don't know that I own it. And so
that's kind of like, I mean, I would agree with you, but that's also kind of like why it's exciting for me, because I like finding out things that maybe not everybody's going to know about a business.
Got the inside line.
Because I just like understanding like small business. I like understanding what's going on behind the scenes, because it's like that makes me fall more in love with the business pretty much always, and it makes me want to support it even more.
Yeah,
because there's like something extra to it that I'm never gonna get from Amazon.
No, there's not that connection, right? It's a connection in a way.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, and we've tried to encourage that, you know, and I'm fortunate in my industry that I can like get new products every day. You know what I mean? So like, that's kind of cool, because like, it's never the same. Like, it's never the same stuff. It's like you said, it's always something. I'm kind of excited, like, what's going to be the next thing, you know, and I kind of get a thrill off of that as well. So I think, yeah, it's fun. It's definitely interactive. I love the Lincoln small business community. There's so many great small, like, you know, businesses in town. And it's been great over the years to get to know all the people who own and operate and work at those small businesses. And I mean, it's a special thing. We should treat it like it's a special thing, because it, you know, the Amazon and all that's so efficient that it's just like hard to compete for small businesses. So when it gets to be that way, it's like, if we're not careful, we can lose that. You know?
You lose that sense of community.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And connection with the people that we're buying things from.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's a responsibility there too, right? Like, I mean, with, you know, when you're buying from a small business, there's, you know, that person takes seriously what they do generally, and they're going to make sure that you get what you need and that you don't have issues.
Yep.
You know, so I think it is a real loss. Plus all the jobs. I mean, small business employs so many people. I mean, especially in Lincoln, like, you know, it's a lot of people that are employed in those shops and stores. And
Yep. Any questions from you, Andy?
I've just listened a lot and absorbed a ton. Like, what do you like? This is, I don't know if like you feel like sharing, but like, what, like, for the future of Home and Closet, like, do you like, are you wanting it to be like just you doing it, or like, do you have a team, or like, what's that looking like logistically?
You know, I definitely am always working with people. I kind of am the center of it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be quite honest, like, so like I don't have any partners. It's just me. But I've never run the business like it's just me. I mean, because there's people I get feedback from continually, and I'm always trying to make it better. And I know that I'm not the expert on everything, that's hard. You kind of have to be good at everything when you run a small business, but you have to know that you're not the best at everything. And so you have to
got to be good enough at everything.
Well, true, but you also got to know the right people to ask.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully they don't ask you to pay them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's really that's the, you know, the thing,
kicker.
Right. But so, I mean, you know, you have to know where to seek knowledge, and like you have to know, okay, this is my skill set, and these are the things I'm going to do as a business owner. But then these other things, that's not my skill set. Like, like, I don't want to be an accountant, man. I like hate doing accounting stuff. I love taking pictures. I love doing a lot of things, but I don't like
I think
doing
we're all in the
accounting.
same boat here. Numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, but some people love
Maybe
accounting.
Kai likes it.
How do you like numbers?
Oh man,
Kai's our only
one. Even computer stuff in a way. It's like, you know, we did the new website, and I did a lot of. I had I have an interior design, small interior design firm, and my partner in that, she helped me a ton, man. And I was like, I mean, like I like messed with code for the first time. That
Yeah.
was like a whole like that's like just a bunch of squiggles on a page, and like you make one little thing and it doesn't work. Like one little space or whatever.
Yeah, I've been interested in it, but I'm also been like, I'm just gonna stay away because I feel like if I go down the rabbit hole,
Yes, it's just like it's like
there's no
upholstery or
return.
something, right? Yeah, it's like or like it really is. So I think it's important as a business owner to like seek out people who have the knowledge, of certain areas because it's like everything. I mean, you're really like whether it's store displays or your online shop or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's all that
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. Anything else?
I think I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, just absorbed a lot for sure. Like,
Anything
I
that
know, I told you guys I had a lot to say.
anything like you'd want our audience to know about either you or Home and Closet or Platte Interiors or like moving forward, like
So we haven't changed.
to either help what you're doing or encourage what you're doing or yeah.
Well, I guess I would like to say like we haven't changed. We have. It's weird because the idea that I own a brick and mortar never occurred to me, and then I owned a brick and mortar for 7 years,
Yeah.
which is like a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a decent run in small business.
Absolutely.
So we're transitioning out of that, but we haven't changed. We're still a local company. We still work with local people, exclusively. In fact, there was nothing in my shop that was produced in China. Like, I mean, we were all U.S. goods. It was all stuff that people were making locally. Like,
Yep.
the vintage stuff was like predominantly U.S. I mean, you might get some like Danish stuff, and there might be occasionally like a Chinese piece in there or something. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, all of that stuff was made right here in the U.S. So that was kind of cool. And I never really, beat that drum. I mean, I did, but I didn't. I didn't
Yeah.
really like.
Oh no, I totally agree. Like a lot of businesses, like that's their number one thing
Yes.
is like they hold on to that. But I feel like,
Yeah.
but I feel like you took I don't know, not
a humble approach to it.
yeah, like a humble, but also yet like a smart approach to producing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, but so we're still that though,
Mhm.
which is kind of cool. Like you can shop us online, anything that you get in the store. Not as much clothing. I mean, that is the one thing that was kind of difficult, and it's weird because I came up with that, but you can't do as much clothing because it's like if it fits and it doesn't fit. And
Yeah.
so right now we're kind of backing off of that a little bit, but we still do vintage bags. We still do all the furniture. Everything's free delivery. So I guess I would just tell people we're still the same company, even though we're online. We'll still do trade shows and stuff. Like we're doing like Love the Locals, and like we'll get into some other stuff, and probably more so
Yeah.
now that we're not brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But-
You don't have the
You're not like restricted to.
you don't have the overhead as much. So
Yeah.
you can make the events maybe more possible or something like that.
Well, less definitely we don't have as much overhead, but also like because we don't have the storefront, we have to get out. We want to get out. We want to see, we want to see the people, our customers, you know what I mean?
Yep.
We want to like interact with them. What are you looking for? What do you
Yep.
guys want? Because it's really about the customer in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can sit here and want to sell stuff all day, and it doesn't matter if no one's interested in buying it.
Yep. Yep. That's the thing that's always amazing to me about people who are creatives. Like we were talking with Abigail Irving about stuff, and it's just like you kind of put out like your soul and you're like, do you like it? A lot of times.
Yeah, that's definitely a real thing.
and it's like I'm like, man, because to me,
I
because
call
for
it your ass on the curb.
there you go.
Right, right?
Like hopefully they like it.
Well, not, I mean, different kind of metaphor, but same
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've thought about that. I'm just like, because for what we do, it's like you're pursuing me to produce a product that you already know that you want.
Yes.
Whereas like people like you and people like Abigail and like artists and creatives, it's like you're producing something that you in theory love, and you've put your heart and soul into, and you're like, do you want it?
Do you like it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a tough. I work with a lot of artists, and they, I don't know if I am an artist or a creative. I never.
I think they're
really-
both.
Like, what's the difference?
Well,
I
I don't know
think
if I'm
they're both.
either. I don't know. See, people sort
Are
of.
you kidding me?
Nah, but I just. I mean, like I just take pictures of stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's not really like I'm not. I mean, I do create some stuff,
Yeah.
but like with furniture, I mean, vast majority of it I'm not creating.
Yes, but you probably put
It's still your eye and
You put
like
the
your,
miles behind
and your
the-
thought into it for sure. It's not like cookie cutter. Like you're not a machine. Like you are like putting your brain like I want this fabric on this
I
frame for this reason because you think it looks cool. But like that's what like creativity is.
and I think like just the sheer amount of hours you've probably put behind a car just driving to look at furniture
Oh yeah, it's definitely I mean, there probably is.
is like
I've had this
on now.
discussion. I've had
Yeah.
this discussion a couple times, and I'm always like, I don't know if because it'll be from people who are real artists, you know, and I'm not. I'm like, I don't know if I'm a real artist. Like, I think like I might be kind of, but I do have that feeling when I put my product out there, like my products out there, that like it is like, and that's a tough thing with, especially with social media. Judgment, like internalizing it, like you have to not internalize it, which is very difficult to do. And also it kind of lets you down when you're like super stoked on something. I'm like, this thing is dope and everybody's gonna love this, and then not very many
Nobody
people like
love
it.
and then you put something out and you're like, this is stupid,
And then
nobody
everybody's
loves
like,
it.
yes. And so you never know. I mean, you know, not everybody shares my, you know, aesthetic vision, but it's, you know,
which is what makes you unique. You know what I'm saying?
right, I guess. But I mean, it's, you know, it's cool. That is a thing, though. I mean, I would love to. I should listen to the one with her because, like, that is interest. Artists, it's tough because you really are, and the more personal your art is, I assume the more easily it would be take that personally.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. I because we had the same discussion with her, like artists are creative, and I'm like, I don't know if I am like an artist, and she's like, well, you'd be putting houses together. I'm like, well, but I don't feel like that same, like I'm putting it out there and hoping you love it, because it's like you picked it out. Like,
Right, yes.
like if you don't love it, it's kind of your own fault. But yeah, I'm still guiding.
It's like the
people.
fine tuning and like
Yeah.
finesse that you've done this.
I
thing.
think it just depends on how you break it down. But
Yeah.
I've definitely had that. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just kind of. That's just a couch. I didn't make the couch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but so then, I mean, but then again, maybe I did a lot of like putting things. A lot of what I do is putting things together, right? Like showing people how they would look in certain situations.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's a thing. I mean, I think
Yeah.
interior design is definitely an art for sure.
So give me the kind of the interior design side.
So
Like,
we.
how did that come about?
So we, my partner Eric and Dale and I got together and we formed a company, and it's called Platte Interiors. And we do interior design and staging, and that was kind of a natural outgrowth as well. You kind of do when you own a business, you kind of like pivot a little bit, you know, and like we saw that as a really viable thing that I've been fascinated with my whole life, and she's an interior designer. So we kind of, that grew out of that, and we do interior design. We also do staging, and we've done some event staging as well. And it's just, you know, it's us putting things together. So it's like living or working environments. And I had a lot of people with commercial environments had purchased furniture from me. So that kind of, you know what I mean? It was kind of like,
Yep.
well, I can help you put it together.
Yeah.
So
And not just a store where you go buy something, but
Right.
like, let me help you maybe source some stuff and like put stuff together that's actually going to look cohesive in a space.
that was the original concept. And then I partnered with an interior designer. Now we 100% do that.
How's that?
So it was kind of neat to do a side gig too. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like a fun, and I mean, I'm fascinated by it. Like I said, it all kind of ties together.
Just like the overall like visual and like creativity into something.
Yes, and there's components to interact, and like I think a smart, well, I think business people should like look at where, you know, if I tilt a little, like if you do, I don't know, whatever, you know, if you're gardening and you're like, oh, I could also do, you know, retaining walls, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then you try it and then you're like, I don't want to do retaining walls.
I agree. That's like me
bricks
and
are heavy.
that's like me and concrete.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
nope, don't want to do that.
But you might try it and dabble in it for a second.
Yeah.
But with this, it's very much something that we were very thought out and we put together, and it's a great thing, and we're doing great, and it's really wonderful, and that's been a lot of fun. That's my first business partner.
Yeah.
I've never had
That's
a business
rad.
partner. That's a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because like before it was just me calling all
Yep.
the shots,
Yep.
but now it's not. It's 50-50.
How's it feel?
It's nice. It's good because you're both in it.
Yeah.
It's not as isolating. That's for sure. And I mean, well, and she's also very talented. So like that, I mean, that's huge, obviously. Like, you know, much more talented than me in a lot of areas. And we have a lot of symbiosis. Like there's a lot of things she's good at that I'm terrible at. And there's some things that I'm okay at that she might not be as strong at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for
appreciate
having me,
it.
guys. This is, like I said, it's my first podcast. So